The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the conclusion of the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Peter turned and saw the disciple following whom Jesus loved, the one who had also reclined upon his chest during supper, and had said, "Master, who is the one who will betray you?" When Peter saw him, he said to Jesus, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus said to him, "What if I want him to remain until I come? What concern is it of yours? You follow me." So the word spread among the brothers that disciple would not die. But Jesus had not told him that he would not die, just, "What if I want him to remain until I come? What concern is it of yours?" It is this disciple who testifies to these things and has written them. And we know that his testimony is true. There are also many other things that Jesus did. But if these were to be described individually, I do not think the whole world could contain the books that would be written. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to the Lord.
It's interesting that just yesterday we heard our Lord ask of Peter, "Do you love me more than these?" Right, with the apostles around him. "Peter, do you love me more than any other apostle loves me?" And it's amazing that Peter can say, "Yes, Lord." Yes, and I think all the apostles, they knew that Peter was the most crazy in love, that he loved most, that he was the most bold in his love for our Lord. And yet at the same time, our Lord called John the beloved, the apostle whom he most loved. And I think all the apostles also knew that John was the one who was most loved by Jesus. Now, how could both be true? That Peter loves the most and yet John is the most loved? Is our Lord unfair in love? My brothers and sisters, we all know people who are great lovers. They love with a profound love. But those individuals might not be the best at receiving love. They might not be very good at allowing themselves to be loved. John was the most loved because he was the most open to receive our Lord's love. And yet Peter loved him the most. Yet what our Lord is revealing to Peter and to all of us, to all disciples until the end of time, is that in the spiritual life there is a primacy. That as time went on, if Peter didn't learn to allow himself to be loved, he wouldn't be the one who loved our Lord the most. Because as time goes on, if we don't allow God to love us, we become stifled in our spiritual lives. Because it's always first that God is love. As John would say, "In this is love, not that we have loved God, but that He has loved us." And if we don't allow Him to love us, we're not going to be able to love Him as we ought. It's really beautiful reading the early fathers of the church and how they interpreted this passage. Some of them believed that John would never die. Now, the fathers lived hundreds of years after John. They're some of the greatest saints, greatest theologians. They really believed that John did not die. Others thought that if he did die, he would return at the end of time in preparation for our Lord's coming. He would come with Elijah to prepare the way of the Lord. St. Augustine believed that our Lord was referring to this. That when he says, "What if I want him to remain?" he's talking about the mode of life that John represents. The contemplative life, the life of those who allow themselves to be loved by our Lord. Because our Lord is saying this is the most important aspect of the church until the end of time. And even the church teaches that. The loftiest vocation is the contemplative life. That it's the most important for the success of the church. It's often been said all down through the ages that in any given time, there are a handful of individuals who are sustaining the entire world. A handful of contemplatives that allow God to love them and therefore merit great graces for